Hey, it's Art from My New Microphone. In today's video, I want to share 5 techniques for giving more space to the background vocals within your mixes. Off the top, these 5 techniques are simple panning, doubling, time alignment, EQing the top end, and using different delays and reverbs than the lead vocal within the mix. So without further ado, let's hop into the digital audio workstation and have a look at these 5 techniques for giving more space to the background vocals in your mix. All right, here we are inside of Logic Pro to talk about giving more space to our background vocals. And so in this session, we will be working on a song called Normal by one of my good friends, Lukey. And particularly, I want to focus on this section right here where there are some good vocal harmonies going on. So I'll play this back and then we'll talk about it.
That Reverb all around. Okay, guys, one more time. All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all the same.
Define getting twisted.
Pull it. Pass it.
Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a dead sea. I'm happy that I changed.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
See, no need in me.
And so this is not the mixing session. There's a little bit of stuff that I need to clean up, but I want to go through this video as if we are producing and mixing. I'm not going to look at a finalized mix in this because I want to go through the steps with you to help you give more space to the background vocal. So the first technique I have for you is simple panning. So right here, when we were going through the recording process and the producing process, what I wanted Lukey to do was to sing the same harmony twice so that I could pan the same take or a doubled take to either side of the stereo spectrum. So the first harmony, I have hard panned left and hard panned right. And then the second harmony, I have panned about halfway to left and halfway to the right. And so if I was to bring all of these back to 0, have everything mono, this is what it would sound like.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all.
And then if I was to pan things out, you will certainly hear this if you're listening in headphones, but you should hear it if you're listening on monitors as well. It's going to push the background vocals out a little bit and therefore make more room not only for the lead vocal, but also give the background vocals their own sense of space.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all the same.
Define getting twisted.
Pull
Now I'll bring them back to the center.
Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a dead sea.
So you can still hear all of the background vocals. It's not like there's a significant amount of masking going on. However, by panning them out, this is a surefire way to give more space to the background vocals. So I really wanted to start off with that. That's the most simple way of getting more space in a stereo mix, is just panning things around the stereo spectrum. I personally prefer to use a hybrid approach of the left, center, right, or LCR panning, where I will pan most of the elements hard left and hard right if possible. And then I also like using a sort of halfway point for tracks that I don't want to be panned hard left and hard right. So in the case of these background vocals, I have a doubled first harmony, a doubled second harmony. I want the first harmony hard panned, and then the second harmony kind of halfway panned, if that makes sense. Now, if during recording and production, I didn't get a doubling of this first harmony and second harmony, let's say I was only left with these tracks, I could opt to hard pan the first harmony all the way to the left and the second harmony all the way to the right. This is what that would sound like.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all the same.
Define getting twisted.
And that certainly gives them their own space, but I feel like it's a bit lopsided with the high harmony being in one ear and the low harmony being in another ear. And so I really, again, wanted to make sure that I had a nice full stereo spectrum, and doubling during the recording process was the way I went about producing this particular record. Now, that is not to say that I couldn't do that if I only had these tracks, which brings us to the technique number 2 for getting more space out of our background vocals, and that is to use doubling effects. And so the doubling effect that I like to use is the Waves Doubler, aptly named. So I'll go down to audio units here in the case of Logic Pro. I'll go to Waves, and I'll go to Doubler 2, mono to stereo. And doubling is a neat effect that combines panning, delay, and detuning. So for example, if I was to just take this track as is, duplicate it, and then duplicate the audio track and then hard pan them, this would still be mono because these are the exact same audio files right here. That's why I went ahead and doubled these two tracks in order to get little differences between the waveforms, which actually gives the doubling effect. So that doesn't work. However, if we use doubling right here, I can go through and get rid of this direct signal, which is the dry signal. And then I have two voices in this doubling plugin right here. So I will pan this to the center. I have the first voice panned all the way to the left, the second voice panned all the way to the right. And I have different delay times. So the first voice, this is just by default, has a delay time of 9.4 milliseconds. And the second voice has a delay time of 23.7 milliseconds. And so that's going to give me a little bit of differences between the left and the right. And then I also have detuning right here. So the detuning of plus 6 cents on voice 1, which is again hard pan to the left, and then a detuning of minus 6 cents on the voice number 2, which again is panned all the way to the right. And so this helps to alter the waveforms in a way that is not exactly like doubling during the recording process. It's not as good, but it does give us the effect of harmonization or doubling. And so let's have a listen to just these vocals right here.
All around us is a drug takes playing with its all shakes, once for all, y'all thinking you're different.
And so if you're listening in headphones, you can definitely hear the two different sides, the left and the right channels. Let's listen to this again, and I'll toggle the doubler on and off.
If I'm getting twisted. Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a dead sea.
And so just there, you heard that it went from mono to very wide stereo, and it really gave a sense of space for the background vocal. Now, if I bring in the lead vocal one more time and have a listen to this together.
All around us is the drug takers playing with us all shakers, one is for all, y'all thinking you're different.
The background vocal, the first harmony in this case, has a nice space to the outside of the stereo image, and the main vocal, the lead vocal in this case, it's still labeled vocal scratch. We ended up using the scratch tape for the lead vocal in this track. Still has that nice center image and takes up that front and center space within the mix. Now, if I was to turn this off, we again would have a mono backing track or background vocal, which could compete and kind of clutter up the space of the lead vocal.
All around us is the drug takers playing with us all shakers, one is for all, y'all thinking you're different.
Doubling on.
Define getting twisted.
So that's a great way of, again, adding more space to the background vocals. Now, if I wanted to do the second harmony right here, what I could do is I'll even bring this over, the same doubling effect. Let us keep the delay at the same time. We can alter the detuning or the delay if we wanted to. Let's say a detune of plus and negative 12 cents respectively. And now instead of panning them all the way out, let's do similarly to what we did in the original mix and do this halfway. So negative 22.5 in the pan and then 22.5 in the pan. And now let's have a listen to the two harmonies along with the lead vocal.
All around us is the drug takers playing with us all shakers, one is for all, y'all thinking you're different. Define getting twisted.
So doubling is a great option for adding some extra space to background vocals, especially if you only have a single track rather than the double tracks that I got during the recording process for this particular mix. So let's turn these off for now and bring these back to what they were. We'll unsolo for now and move on to technique number 3, which is time alignment. And that is another reason why I kept this as more so a production session rather than the final mix. So right here, what we want to do is I will bring the lead vocal right here, and the differences in timing are really good to give that sense of doubling, but at the same time, they can kind of smear the image and make things a little bit cluttered and not give a strong sense of space to the mix. Now, like many things in mixing, this is largely up to taste. We can go for an aesthetic that has a little bit more variation in the background vocals. I ended up not doing any time alignment in the final mix of this record, but if we want to compete with a lot of modern pop records, then time alignment, particularly on background vocals, to give them a nice sense of cohesion and space within the mix and solidarity within the mix, can be a great thing. So we could go about doing this manually, where we have to go in and cut and move around each individual syllable right here to match things up. That can get really messy, and I've found that I can spend a lot of time and not get the results that I want on this. So to time align, I like using the Synchro Arts plugin Vocaline. So let's go find that right down here, Synchro Arts Vocaline Ultra AU. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, make sure that we are dealing with mono version. So I'm going to get rid of this doubler, which is a stereo plugin. Logic can be a little bit finicky with that. Let's make sure that that is mono. This one should automatically be mono, and this one has to be mono as well. So the two tracks that we had the doubler on, we'll just make sure are mono. Everything is in mono. Okay, so the Vocaline plugin is an awesome plugin that allows us to quickly and effectively time align different tracks, particularly vocals. I've also had a lot of success using this on horns. However, we can open this up and move forward. So the first thing we want to do is adjust our side chain right here. So what we want to do, the goal of Vocaline right now in this session, is to align all of our harmonies right here with the lead vocal. And so we want our lead vocal, the Vox scratch track right here, as our side chain on each of these vocal lines. So we will go to side chain up here in Logic. We will choose Vox scratch. And now we can go capture audio right there. So now this is armed to capture the guide, which is going to be the side chain, which is the Vox scratch. And it's also going to capture the dub, which is the, in this case, Vocal Harms 1 track right here. And so what I can do is actually copy and paste this over to the other tracks. If we open these, yes, we have the side chain right there. We will arm the second one. Let's now open the third one. We'll arm that one as well. And finally, the fourth one, we're going to arm that as well. So we have 4 of these open for our 4 harmony tracks. And now we can go and start from the very beginning right here and play this through in real time. It will capture the guide track, again, the side chain, and then each of these harmony tracks right here. And then it will output something that automatically aligns the dub track to the guide track in terms of timing. So we can do that. And before I hit play right here, I have to go up to record and undo this low latency monitoring mode. So now my voice, because I'm monitoring myself through Logic Pro, is going to get very latent, but it is what we have to do. So let's start from the very beginning.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all the same.
Define getting twisted.
Pull it. Pass it.
Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a dead sea. I'm happy that I changed.
Let's turn that back on so that I can hear myself without all of that latency. And yes, so now we see here that in each of these tracks we have a guide, our dub, and now we have our output as well. And so if we zoom in, we can see that the output has been changed. The yellow is the original signal, and then the blue is what is being done to alter the time of this. Now, there can sometimes be some artifacts that are introduced, especially when the timing isn't perfect. I think that Lukey did a great job on getting very close to the time. And so we can have a listen back. And again, these plugins are going to be outputting what is going on right here. So we can have a listen through all of these plugins and see and hear how the time alignment went. So hopefully there are no artifacts that come about, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few issues that we'll just have to massage a little bit. You'll notice here that on the match timing, I have this set as tight as possible. We can make it looser or tighter depending on what our goal is in the mix. In this case, let's go with tight and have a listen here.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all the same.
Define getting pretend that I was stuck on a deck. See, I'm happy that I changed.
So that just helps to time align all of these vocals so that the background vocals are at the same timing as the lead vocal. It makes them much more harmonious, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many pop mixing engineers. Not that I'm a pop mixing engineer, but this can help give a bit of extra space because it is not smearing the different transients of the vocals where different words are happening at different times. So this isn't something that I always reach for, but it is something that we can utilize within our mixes to give a bit more space and separation for the background vocal from the rest of the mix. Now, we don't always have to time the background vocals to the lead vocal. We can time the background vocals to themselves. In this case, I wanted to time them to the lead vocal just for demonstration purposes. Again, not a masterclass on VocAlign Ultra, but I did want to show that as a strategy for getting more space in our mix for our background vocals. And the fourth strategy we have is to use a bit of EQ. Now, particularly, we want to focus on the upper range right here to alter the perceived depth of the background vocals. So we can think of the background vocals as being in the background, and so we may or may not want to diminish the amount of top end energy in the background vocals. Naturally, as sound propagates through air or other media, the high end frequencies are going to be absorbed quicker than the mid range and the low end frequencies. That's why, for example, if there is a rumbling of thunder that is very distant, we hear a lot of low end energy, even though there is a lot of high end energy. We just don't hear it because we are so far away. So what we can do is bring down the amount of high end energy, often above the 10K range. And in doing so, we can move the background vocals a bit further from the listener. Conversely, we can go to the lead vocal and separate it from the background vocal by adding a little bit of energy to the top end. So I'm not sure I'm doing that here, but what we could do is go right here and add a little bit of top end. Probably around 12,500. That's just from experience. And let's just bring this EQ across all of these and put these all on the same level so that I can quickly turn them on and bypass them. And if I am to play the mix back, and we can hear that when these channel EQs are turned on, perhaps the vocals are a bit more separated than when they are turned off. So let's have a quick listen here.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all the same.
Define getting twisted.
Pull it.
And I can make it a bit more obvious by bringing this down. Let's just copy this over now, where this is effectively a low pass filter. I'll play this with the EQs on and off. So starting with on.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You are all the same.
Define getting twisted.
Pull it. Pass it.
Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I...
That almost makes the background vocals sound deeper because I'm cutting off so much of that top end. But that is just another way to add a bit more space between, especially the background vocals and the lead vocal, is to have a bit of that channel EQ right there. So let's actually turn off the VocAlign Ultra and keep moving forward to tip number 5 for creating a bit more space in the background vocals, and that is to use a different reverb than we are for the lead vocal. And so in this particular session, I don't actually have the lead vocal or the Vox scratch being sent to a reverb as it stands right now. However, the background vocals being bus 2, bus 3 comes in on this channel right here, the background Vox subgroup. And here we have Logic's stock Chromaverb with a wet mix of 14 and a dry mix of 100 right here. Again, this is a production session. This is not a proper mix session. This is not how I would go about routing in a mix session and not how I teach how to mix. But in this case, I am using a different reverb or reverb at all on the background vocals just to give them a little bit more space. And if I was mixing this, I would likely put a bit of reverb on the lead vocal. I would also have this labeled as the lead vocal. And I would make the reverb for the background vocals perhaps a little bit wetter, more reverb versus the dry signal of the background vocals, and also a little bit darker than that of the lead vocal. And so reverb by itself, along with delay, will give a sense of space to the background vocals, but also having a different reverb or different delays for the lead vocal versus the background vocal will just help to separate them a little bit more within the mix. So those are my 5 techniques or 5 tips for getting a bit more space with the background vocals in your mixes. All right, those are my top 5 techniques for giving more space to the background vocals in your mix. Once again, they are simple panning, doubling, time alignment, EQing the top end, and using different delays and reverbs than the lead vocal. If you'd like to learn more about mixing, I do have a free mixing guidebook. It will be the first link in the description box down below. You can pick that up, sign up to my newsletter, and I will send it to you right away. It goes through the entire mixing workflow to help you make the right decisions at the right times to improve your mixes and the consistency between your mixes. If you find this video useful, I would encourage you to hit that like button and to also subscribe here to the My New Microphone YouTube channel. And I will also leave a few other videos here in the top left and right corner if you're interested in spending more time with me here on YouTube. So check one of these out. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.